There you go. Good morning, I'm Vanya Sakalaris, and thank you for the invitation to join you in an important discussion this morning to help illuminate some of the great value offerings that the members provide for the benefit of the sector. In response to the question, about the single action, I thought the best way to round up my thoughts and to segue from my presentation is I feel it's really important to understand, assess, and address psychological safety. My esteemed peers have done a really great job this morning of helping to set the sound foundation for my contribution to the discussion, and really reinforcing ways that it touches the operations at all levels of an organization, strategic and operational. So that's the action, and a bit more about us and about the topic of psych safety. And so I founded VAS and Associates 7 years ago. And I did that after 25 years as a healthcare administrator. I spent 10 years as CEO of organizations in the Toronto area, and then 10 years as a funder at the executive level, running a provincial crown agency, $5 million. And so my career started in serving people in the context of health, and having worked in very heavy regulated environments and laced with risk, policy, and a lot of stakeholder engagement. Post my business school, it became clear to me that my passion remained people, helping people be successful. So I switched my gears from helping organizations to helping the people behind organizations. And so with the birth of VAS, there's 3 key areas that we support leaders through challenge, change, and growth. Through management consulting, I think I was doing strategy in my sleep for 10 years and helping to advance visions and mobilizing it to impact in the context of Ontario strategy. And that's an area that I support organizations in developing plans for the future. But I also then support the leaders and their teams in making the magic happen. And we do that through training and leadership development training, as well as through coaching, one-to-one and through teams. And so my experience at the executive level attracted a lot of executives, senior executives, C-suite, VP and director level executives on their way in their journey, and entered my coaching practice, including executives that referred to me from the mining network. And so I've been supporting leaders in your industry for almost 7 years, as well as across various industries, including banking. I have a lot of engineers and lawyers and professional services in my practice. But the more complex it is, the more there's room for discussion on thought leadership and ways to help overcome some of the challenges and opportunities in the changing world around us. And so what increasingly has come up as an area of interest for teaching and for coaching and understanding is this notion of psychological safety. It makes its way into our work, as something that leaders are thinking more and more about as a necessary, I won't say evil, but a necessary element of the business in managing the most important asset, which is the talent of the assets of the employees in the organization. And so building on this interest, I myself became more immersed in it, and you'll hear more about some of the work that I do. But what I've done is prepared a few slides to kind of help you understand better, through my contribution to the additive, what psychological safety is, but more importantly, it's linked to performance, and then risks and benefits associated with psychological safety. And then lastly, some of the supports that are available through VAS, in addition to those referenced this morning. And so, Audrey started us off this morning on talking about impact of things that psychological safety, produce. And I'm going to kind of ride the wave of impact. And so psychological safety is something that was studied and kind of really born of a lot of the tagline of psychological safety was born in about 1999 by the work of a Harvard professor, Professor Amy Edmondson, who was studying healthcare teams in hospitals for almost 20, 30 years. Her research and the line to psychological safety really started to take more traction and was heard across various industries by 2015. And now, as we're linking it to the important work associated with SDGs and ESG, is becoming something, as well as the important work in DEI. It's something that is now part of the common lexicon, but not as a neat, nice to do item, but a need to do item. And so, some of the things that Amy, Dr. Edmondson or Amy's research showed is that teams who have evidence of psychological safety present outperform teams that don't. And that, psychological safe teams are those who operate without a fear of judgment, without a fear of rejection, who feel supportive to make, to contribute out of the box, innovative, creative thinking. And so, in addition to her work, there were studies, including one called Project Aristotle that was led by Google. They did a 5-year study and looked at 300 of their most successful teams. And they found across all 5, there was 5 common elements across the 300 most successful teams, including psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity of role, meaning of work, and the impact that the employees were having, the teams were having on the work they were engaged to perform. But most telling aspect of that is none of the other 4 can be truly realized without the presence of psychological safety. There's a dependency on psychological safety to have the other elements take full effect. And so with more and more evidence supporting the why, it's something we need to pay attention to and how it links to performance of an organization. There's of course the obvious link to the SDGs. And so as global organizations are working, on strategies and designing strategies and assessing, ways that they can make meaningful impact, particularly in the area of social in relating to both internal and external stakeholders. We are reminded by many reports, only 2 referenced here. Deloitte, reminds us in their paper that people are the cornerstone, and well-being is a cornerstone for any ESG strategy. And Ernst & Young says humans are should be at the heart of any effective ESG strategy. So we're all thinking about it, and you've heard this morning the reinforcement of the importance of the people, helping them in many aspects of their journey and ensuring that they're heard, understood, supported, attracted, retained, and all of the above. So when we don't, and again, coming back to where we started discussion, there's a cost in not doing. And so when we're not monitoring and understanding psychological safety, appreciating that there's visible and invisible indicators of psychological safety, what we realize is, there's this notion of fear in the workplace. And when there's fear in the workplace and people hold back, we miss the opportunity to learn from them. We miss the opportunity to hear the voices. We miss the opportunity to advance or identify an innovation. Employees who feel vulnerable and unsupported, are held back from reaching their potential, hence our full potential as organizations. And so, fear impacts culture. And so, I'm preaching to the choir for sure that you can see that there's a domino effect in terms of if there's these elements present, it starts to impact employee morale, employee performance, and again, safety. On the flip side, when it's present and alive and well in an organization, what we witness in teams with a high degree of psychological safety is a high degree of confidence. In teams that are openly sharing views, that are seeking assistance without fear of judgment or acceptance, that they're supported in the area of innovation and creativity, and also, as I said earlier, these teams outperform based on research those that don't feel psychologically safe. So what's been done, based on Dr. Edmondson's research, she developed a scan, and my firm's been certified in conducting this scan, which allows us to look at an entire organization, a region, or a particular team. And based on 7 simple questions linked to her research. And, there's an assessment of the degree of inclusion and diversity that people feel. It's based on employee voice. We may think we're doing many things, but the employee voice is the true test of inclusion and diversity. How do the employees feel about, to what degree do they feel that there's a willingness to help evident in their team or in an organization? What would they identify as the attitude to risk or failure? And to what extent do they feel that there's open communication? And are there barriers to any of these? And so with this instrument, it's decision support, it's insights, information's power. And so the report provides anonymized information. It gives us a score that is benchmarked against global scores, and there's over 20,000 surveys that have been done in the database. So we look at how does this team compare to global teams, and what quartile, do the results of this organization or this division's results? What's it telling us about safety? Oftentimes when these reports come back, what's very telling is the leader's assessment of where they thought they were, and the voice of the employees and what they're feeling they're at in these 4 domains. Start the discussion about, so what now what? And so what we do then is have meetings with the leadership team, meetings with the organization, pre and post the survey, so they understand what the intention is and to feel safe in anonymously contributing feedback in a way that protects their safety, and so that there's no risk of identification of who said what. But quickly move to action planning. So we facilitate using, many of the tools and frameworks we use in our strategy work, but really helping them to mobilize measurable action in the short term in support of longer term goals. And so it's usually then passed off to a smaller group with a leadership component to ensure accountability to carrying it forward. So it's not just an exercise, it's not just something to appease voices in the crowd. And so it's been a very powerful as an instrument to help tell a part of the story and to help set the coordinates for navigating the road ahead. So where we get called in, sometimes it's reactive, sometimes it's proactive. And so I'd say in the reactive, oftentimes there might be a typical employee survey that an organization performs annually or every second year. And in response to substandard or concerning results, they'll call us saying, Dania, we need to understand why exactly they're feeling vulnerable. They feel like they're not being heard, or there's something about ethics. So there's messages in the survey results. And so there's a reactive response to call to action. So leaders we work with come to us to kind of look at what options exist. And so there might be listening circles, there might be one-to-one. So we look at, depending on the situation, the nature of the issue and the size of the organization, we look at ways to reactively assess and address some of the issues that have surfaced from the voice of the teams. In some cases, it's proactive. And then when it's proactive, we might start by doing some workshops and training to help teams understand what elements of psychological safety are and what's in place to kind of ensure that things move as intended and where there may be gaps in terms of advancing aims. We use the assessment instrument, as I just indicated, and sometimes what comes out of the assessment instrument is clarity in terms of there might be an issue with one particular team or region or one particular set of leaders. We then often get invited to help do coaching of leaders and teams to address some of the competency skills. Sometimes it's emotional intelligence, but there's different issues that arise in terms of the report findings. And then again, always move to action, including strategic advice. So that's a flavor of the types of, how the services we provide support psychological safety with the clients we support across many industries. I hope that this helped to increase your awareness and my goal of helping you understand and validate why it is we need to continue to assess and address and ensure psychological safety of our teams.